Okay, you guys, we're going to do test corrections on chapter 8, unit test 8. If you haven't taken this test, you need to step outside. If you sit through test corrections and you haven't taken this test, you will write an essay. So if you were not here on Monday or Tuesday, please step outside with your study guide to work on that as we do test corrections. For those of you who were here Monday and Tuesday, if you actively participate in test corrections and contribute, stay on task, you will get the points awarded for however many right as a class that you get. So our first question is number 3, but we have to read this document. This document is by Ann Taylor. He's an historian and it's about the American colonies. I know it says 2001, but it's an historian who's doing a secondary source on his interpretation of what happened. So it says the colonizers brought along plants and animals to the Americas, some by design and others by accident. So determined to farm in a European manner, the colonists introduced their domestic livestock of honeybees, pigs, horses, mules, sheep, and cattle, and their domesticated plants, including wheat, barley, rye, oats, grasses, and grapevine. So basically these people brought over food and they brought over animals. But the colonists also inadvertently, so yes, they brought stuff over, but things that they didn't think about they brought over are they carried pathogens, so diseases, weeds, and rats. And we know rats spread disease. The remaking of the Americas was a team effort by a set of interdependent species led partially managed is talking about what they brought over, but never fully controlled, which is talking about the second part of what they brought over accidentally. So now let's look at question 3. We did fine on question 1 and 2, but let's look at 3. 3 says the pattern described in the excerpt most directly foreshadows which of the following developments. So it says, okay, this document went over talking about the food that it's bringing over, and then it also talked about the diseases. So we know those two things from the document. So let's look at what it's going to foreshadow. Basically, what do you predict? That's what the foreshadowing means. Are we going to see the spread of maize cultivation northward from present-day Mexico to the American Southwest? Okay, well, isn't maize something already here? So that doesn't even, are the Europeans bringing over corn? No, so that's not right. Are we going to see the population decline of Native American societies because of what they brought, the food and pathogens? Is this going to be something that will happen in the future? Foreshadow, predicting. Is there going to be a gradual shift of European economies to capitalism because of what they bring over to America? In Europe, they're going to ship over to a free market. Are we going to see the emergence of racially mixed populations because of the food they bring over and because of the pathogens? So according to those two things, because of the food, because of the pathogens, which one of these things is going to happen? Talk about it as a class, come up with the answer, and Ms. Morgan will tell you if you're right or not. She'll pause me right now, and I'm going to move on to the next question. Okay, our next question actually deals with this prompt. I have no clue how to say this name, but this dude, he says, I was not long suffered to indulge my grief. I was soon put down under the decks, and there I received such a salutation in my nostrils as I have never experienced in my life. Okay, so that it was loathsome of the stench and crying together, I became so sick and low that I was not able to hear, it should have been here, know that I had the least desire to taste anything. So basically, this guy is being put under deck, so maybe a ship, right? And he's saying he's not having the time of his life, right? It smells bad. He feels sick. So now I wish for the last friend, death, to relieve me. Okay, so this guy, he's on this boat, right? He's under the deck. It's horrible. He says he wants death. But soon to my grief, 2 of the white men offered me eatables. So they offered him food. And on my refusing to eat, one of them held me fast by the hands and laid me across, I think the windlass, and ties my feet, while the other flogged me. So this guy doesn't want to eat. So his hands are tied together, his feet are tied together, and he's hit. I had never experienced anything of this kind before. And although not being used to the water, I naturally feared the element for the first time when I saw it. Yet nevertheless, I could have gotten over the nettings and would have jumped over the side, but I could not. So, okay, so this guy, he's looking over the boat and he's saying, well, I hadn't seen water before, but I think I could take it. So you should naturally, y'all got this on 6. Y'all knew this was the middle passage. So let's look at 7 and determine. There's this guy who's now a slave, right? He's on this boat, he's not eating, and he's thinking about killing himself, right? So this is asking 7, says, what other long-term event will result because of this document? So there is this slave, he's in the middle passage, he doesn't want to eat, he's thinking about death, right? Is this going to be the Antonia movement? Have we even talked about that? The French movement? Is his treatment going to lead to the closing of the middle passage? Or because of what happens, is this going to lead to a decline of population of Africa called African dysphoria? So there's a slave, right? He is on a boat. He's coming to the Americas. Which one of these things is going to happen because of the middle passage? Talk about it amongst the class. I'm going to move on to the next one, and Miss Morgan will tell y'all the answer. Okay, this is number 10 we have to deal with, but we have to read the passage by Miguel de Este, a Spanish mercenary soldier, account on the expedition to Peru. He said, seeing how vile and despicable the idol was, we went outside to ask why they care about so crude and ungainly a thing. So the soldier is seeing people worship an idol, right? And they think this is bad. But they, astounded at daring, defended the honor of their God and said he was Pakamak, the maker of the world, who healed their infirmity. So the natives are saying, hey, this is a good God. He heals us, right? And according to what we were able to learn, the devil appeared to their priest in the hut and spoke with them. And they entered there with petitions and offerings for the entire kingdom of Aatupa, just as the Moors and the Turks go to the house in Mecca. Okay, so apparently the natives have this God and they're giving him petitions and offerings, right? They're giving him stuff. Seeing the evil of what was there and the blindness of all those people, we gathered together the leaders and enlightened them. So these soldiers do not like their God, and they're going to try to enlighten them. They're going to try to teach them something. And in the presence of all, the hut was opened and torn down, and with much solemnity, a tall cross was raised over the seat for which for so long the devil had claimed as his own. So basically, these soldiers, they taught him something that's going to lead him to making a cross, right? So you should get that. The soldiers probably are teaching them about Christianity, and now they're denouncing their idols and they're becoming Christian. Okay, so let's look at 10. The Spanish explorers would have been alarmed by all of the following offerings that the native population bestowed on their God, except. So what we should know is we're inferring, what are the things that the natives would have given their gods? Would they have bestowed bloodletting rituals? Would they have done human sacrifice? Would they have bestowed gold and silver, gold and jewels, or would they have bestowed maize? Which of the stuff here would they have bestowed, but also it would have alarmed the Spanish explorers? Like they wanted it, or they were just like, oh my gosh, that's strange. So look at those things and figure out what they would have been alarmed by. They would have been like, oh my gosh, that's cool, or oh my gosh, that's crazy. Hey, of those, there should be 3 things that the Spanish should really like, and there's 1 thing that they shouldn't be alarmed by. Hey, Miss Morgan has the answer. Talk collectively as a class as I go to the next one. Okay. This this is an image. We see it's the Atlantic slave trade. We see a lot of slaves going into the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. So number 14 says, the above historical development, okay, the taking of slaves only occurred after the failure of the following systems except. So this system of slavery up here only occurred after the failure of what? All of the following except. So did slavery occur because there was a failure of the encomienda system, hacienda system, the mita system, or chattel slavery? So talk as a class, 3 things are going to fail, and that led to slavery, and one of them didn't lead to slavery. Okay, talk it over as a class and come to an agreement. We're going to look at 15 as well. Ms. Morgan has the answer for number 14. 15, the transatlantic system depicted in the map will lead to the development of which of the following social classes? So we saw transatlantic slave system. What class, because African Americans come over, what class will be created? Is it the Creoles, the mulattoes, the mestizos, or the peninsulares? So 15, come up collectively as a class and determine. Ms. Morgan has the answer and she will correct y'all. We are going to go on to question 19 now. We have to read the passage here. It says, the Mexican city of Zacatecas is renowned for its enormous quantity of silver that has been extracted from it and continued to extract today. At the time of the discovery of the silver, there were many forests and woodlands in this rocky land, all of which have since vanished, so that now, except from some little wild palms, no other trees remain. So basically, they found silver and they're still extracting it. The time of the discovery of the silver, the forest went away, right? Now there's no forest. Firewood is very expensive in the city because it's brought in carts from distance of 18 hours away. So there's no trees, so firewood or wood is very expensive. The silver discovered in the year 1540 in the following way. After the fall of the Aztec Empire, the Spanish soldiers remained, and they spread over the entire country. So silver was discovered, the Spanish soldiers spread over the place. Since no more towns remained to conquer, and since they had so many Indian slaves, they devoted themselves to seeking riches from the silver mines. So they looked for silver. One of these soldiers was Juan de Tolosa, who happened to have an Aztec among his Indian slaves. So this guy who was looking for it had an Aztec amongst his people. The Aztecs, it is said, seeing his master so anxious to discover the mines and to claim silver, told him. So the Aztec Indian realizes the Spanish really want to discover silver. If you desire this substance, I will take you where you can fill your hands and satisfy your greed with it. So this Aztec saying he knows where it is and I'll take you to it. The city houses at least 600 white residents, and most of them are Spaniards. There are 800 black slaves and mulattoes. There are about 1,500 Indians who in work gangs who labor in all types of occupation in the mine. So this is just telling us about that city. We missed number 19. The desire for silver in the passage would result in which of the following? Because the Spanish desired silver, is this going to begin the process of industrialization, that factories are going to come into the Americas? Is this going to lead to the establishment of the first chartered and limited liability commercial company? So is this going to lead to businesses being formed here? C, is this going to lead to a rapid growth of China's population under the Song and Ming dynasties? Or because of the discovery of silver, this is going to increase global exchange between the old and new world? So what is silver going to lead to? Is it going to lead to factories coming here? Is it going to lead to businesses being formed? Is it going to lead to increased growth of China's population? Or because of silver, we're going to see the exchange between old and new world happen because they want silver? So determine amongst the class what's the answer. Ms. Morgan has the right one for you. I'm going to move on to the next one, which deals with this. Actually, let's read the document. It says, the excerpt from Martin Luther's 95 Thesis. He says, those who believe that they can be certain of salvation because they have indulgence letters will be eternally damned together with their teachers. So if you buy an indulgence and you think you're going to be saved, you're not. You and your teacher are going to be damned, okay? We are going to hell. Every truly repentant Christian has the right of full remission of penalty of guilt, even without letters of pardon. So every Christian has the right to remit their guilt and repent. They don't need indulgence. Christians are to be taught that he who gives to the poor or lends to the needy does better work than buying pardon. So help the poor. Don't buy indulgences. The truer treasure of the church is the most holy gospel and the glory and grace of God. So, the best thing about church is the word of the Lord. So let's look at 23. Martin Luther attacked the church in the 95 Thesis, caused all of the following. So we know he's charging except about the indulgences. And because of this, and because of the church, what's going on, because of his attack, do we get the creation of new churches, such as the Lutherans and the Protestants? Do we get the decline of the power of the Roman Catholic Church? Do we get increased popularity of Reform religious beliefs? Or is there adoption of the reforms by the Catholic Church? Do the Catholic Church take on Luther's request? So determine which three are true, and the false is the answer. Miss Morgan will have the answer for y'all. And I'm going to go to number 26. She'll pause me. So this one, y'all got 25 right. We have maps, right? It says this is the location of the printing press prior to 1471. And by 1500, there's a lot more. So question 26 says, what impact will the printing press have on the 15th century Europe? So all of this is stimulating the printing. So which one is it going to stimulate the printing? Is it going to stimulate the printing of religious books? Is it going to stimulate the printing of maps, Enlightenment ideas, or scientific ideas? Looking at what we're focusing on, is this going to be religious books, nautical maps, Enlightenment ideas, or scientific ideas? Determine as a class, and Miss Morgan has the answer.